Hello everyone, and welcome to AustCham's Business Connections Community, an online TV program that keeps you updated with what's happening in the Australian Thai business community. I'm your host, Brendan Cunningham, Executive Director at AustCham. In this episode, we're zooming into Thailand as we welcome the Australian alumni who brought their super popular, super useful platform here to Thailand. We welcome my favourite Thai teacher, who's going to help me with a pronunciation problem I've had for the past 23 years. I'm sure you'll find this one enjoyable. And finally, we have a former AustCham Thailand president who we can help celebrate and congratulate on his appointment as a member of the Order of Australia. Stay with us. Welcome back. In our business section today, a highly topical and very interesting segment for you. We're zooming into Thailand. Zoom has become so important in our lives over the past couple of years. We meet the person who brought Zoom here to Thailand. I'd like to introduce Kun Vasavas Nonsopa, CEO and founder at One to All. How are you?
Hi. Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. So thank you very much for letting me be here today. I'm good, excellent. Just back from my 2 weeks Australian vacation.
Excellent.
Very happy to be back after 15 years, 20 years.
That's amazing. I'm a little jealous. I'm keen to go back to Australia soon myself. And as you mentioned, 15 years ago, you were in Australia. You've come into AustCham as an Australian alumni, winning an award at the recent Australian Alumni Awards. Let's start with that before we move on to Zoom. Can you tell us about your time in Australia as a student? Where did you study? What was your experience?
No, that could be like 20 years back.
Wow.
Even before Sydney 2000. Remember, Sydney 2000 was an Olympic then, right? Held
That's
in
right.
Sydney. So yeah, I was there in Sydney 2000. I was graduated from University of New South Wales. I did my high school in one of the school in Sydney in Bondi Beach.
Right.
It was then called Presbyterian High School. Then yeah, I managed to get into University of New South Wales as the mechanical engineering student. So, but after 2 years, I decided to focus on naval architecture, which is about shipbuilding. Why? Because that's the reason why I come to Australia to study. It's about naval architect to actually continue my father business. Yeah, he have found a shipyard in Thailand. He built ships for Navy and yeah, and he want me to be following his footsteps in Thailand.
Wow.
And that's the reason. So I spent 4 years, 2 years in mechanical, another 2 years in naval architect. After graduated, I managed to get a decent jobs. Is one of the engineers in Australian defense industry. Yeah, now not too far from Kingsford. So as the drafting engineers, so it's very lucky they took me in. And yeah, I was working with Australian navies and Navy for almost 2 years, and that's my life there. And I think I got an offer again in New Zealand. One of the shipyard yacht owner, they have their own shipyard and they want engineers to help them to designing their yacht. So I decided to move to New Zealand later to work there. So, but in total, it's about 9 years in Australia. Really like it. Why? I think the reason I'm here today, I'm becoming a successful business is because I got everything from Australia, my background, my my logical thinking, which I got it from while I was in university. English language definitely, and also and friends which I had during Australia mostly are not Thai. Strangely, because uh, the what I'm studying and the university I'm actually attending is very little Thai students. So I pretty much alone and always spend my time with foreigners like other like Australian as well, and together with Indonesian, Malaysian, things like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a great
So
cultural experience in Australia.
yeah, that's definitely.
Okay. And just for our audience, I have to ask you, you obviously preferred Australia to New Zealand when you did have to go to New Zealand, right?
Yeah, 9 years in Australia, it just become my home. I really don't want to go anywhere. Really, even back to Thailand, I still don't want to come back to Thailand because you get so used to it. You like the life there so much. But uh, career is important. I want to expand my development further. So career development. So yeah, I want to have a better others experience as well. Before eventually, yeah, I will be back to Thailand eventually. So that's why. Uh, so I decided to move to New Zealand and work there.
Oh, good. It sounds like a very interesting early career you had with naval architecture and the boat building, essentially. Returning then to Thailand, can you tell us about how you've gone from returning to Thailand to the Zoom official partner?
Yeah, the story is like I didn't want to come to Thailand, but my dad called me one day and say, "Hey, Vasavas, you better come back. I have a project with Pakistani Navy. I need you to be a leader for this project." Oh, okay. Uh, where do I have to work? Okay, you might have to work in Thailand and you have to travel and stay in Pakistan as well. Oh, okay. And yeah, because of English speaking, and my dad is not so fluent, so I in the end I have to move back to Thailand and actually work, not actually with Zoom first, but work in shipyard of my dad's for a few years, and then later on. While I was working, I also set up another company. It's more like an e-commerce company, where I really have my passionate about technologies. Even though I am engineering, naval architecture, I'm also very passionate about technologies like uh, PC, internet, and one day it's just that I have to make a lot of international calls, and it was very expensive then. I come across uh, a technology called voice OIP.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that time it was a service from one of the US company called Net2Phone. So I purchased that voice OIP to make international call. It works very good, very cheap. It saved me $90, 90% cost saving. So I decided to contact them and said I want to be their distributor for voice OIP in Thailand,
Right.
and they agree. And then I became the distributor, purchased a service, resell to Thailand. And after 8, 9, 10, 12, actually 13 years, our company grow further and further in the enterprise market. Like we providing communication service, international calling, local domestic calling to Thailand, enterprise market. And you know just 1 year before COVID started, I always looking for new products that I will be more excited. So I was looking at the Zoom because I was listening to Eric Yuan's one of the webinar, and he was so passionate about his video conferencings where it's so tough then because there's so many players uh, who were competing in video conferencing, not to mention Microsoft, Google, Cisco. But he still decided to move forward with Zoom because of uh, that he really know that he can make a difference for video conferencing. Like 4 years ago, conferencing is not like that
No.
before Zoom. So yeah, so he found a Zoom company. I really like his story, and I become so interested. So I contacted Zoom that I wanted to be their distributor, their partners, and there were not any distributor or partners here then before COVID.
Right.
So I became their initial resellers, the first ever resellers in Thailand for Zoom. First year, very tough. Nobody really want to use video conferencing in Thailand.
No, we were meeting in person, weren't we? So
Yep, I was presenting Zoom a lot, and nobody really, it's so difficult just to close one deal, but manage to close a few with some very leading company like Central. They were using our Zoom. And yeah, when COVID started on 2019, end of 2019, yeah, and everything's changed. Like it's become like Zoom's become a hot cake. Everybody just want, you know, like we have a 300 phone calls to our office every day.
right.
Uh, Everybody want to buy Zoom, and that's how we started and become recognized by most of the enterprise in Thailand that we are selling Zoom.
It sounds very much like right place at right time, even if at the beginning it was a little bit slow. With when COVID set in and the world shut down in March 2020, Zoom became just such an important part of all of our lives. It became like a third hand. You had two hands for doing things, and Zoom became your third hand. You simply could not survive the past couple of years without it for a lot of people.
Yeah, sure. So I think without Zoom, uh, it'll be different chapters. Before Zoom, every, every video conferencing really not the same, not like this. It's very difficult to use. The experience is not that good. And actually, the most important aspect of Zoom technologies, which I listened to Eric Yuan, the CEO, I really like it. It's not because of video. That's what he said. His secret uh, recipe of how he can make Zoom success is actually voice. As
Ah,
first, yeah.
the voice is clearer.
Voice is very important. He has a what they call a very very special codec. It's called compression codec, compression, voice compression technologies, where it can really compress a lot of bandwidth, and you use a little bandwidth as compared to others. So up to 40% less bandwidth as compared to other competitors, and that's the reason why Zoom becomes so successful. And their bread and butter is voice.
Right. Oh, that's really interesting. And those 2 years after a slow start, I would imagine from March 2020 onwards, that year, your sales must have zoomed through the roof.
Yeah, I think our revenue for Zoom is like in that year alone is like uh almost it's two million US dollars
Wow.
just for Zoom.
Just for
You know,
Zoom. And then
for
you have other
license.
business. Yeah. And like anything, what goes up must at least stabilize or even come down a little bit. We have returned to being outside and talking to people, but we're on Zoom at the moment. The platform we're using for this call is, of course, Zoom. How is business today?
Well, actually, in 2020, we got like uh 2 million, and 2021, our total revenue for Zoom is even better. It's almost 5 million USD.
Wow.
Uh, uh, that's 2 years is really our golden years. We managed to get a lot of customers on board, up to 3,000 enterprise customers. But yes, I agree with you on 2022 this year, when things become uh, back to normal. Uh, our sales, drastically drop. But Zoom is not stopping at conferencing. They are moving towards what they call as Zoom phone. So
Okay.
telephony. So so that's also another attractive business that I'm actually doing it right now. So it's providing a phone telephony service to enterprise besides video conferencing service. So this is the revenue that compensating for what we for the loss of conferencing this year. So up to today is still not too bad for the total revenue. But yeah, conferencing uh, at least uh, a lot, especially with smaller customers. For large enterprise, they are still okay. Like, they don't really want it to change that much, or either they might have Microsoft Teams, they might have WebEx, and they also have Zoom. So it doesn't matter which customer wanted to talk to them, they still have license available to talk to the outside customer.
Right.
So we have a slight drop from enterprise, but for the SMB, yeah, quite a big drop for SMB market.
But it was such an important part of our lives for 2 years. I'd imagine it will still, even if there is less frequency, it will still play an important part for many years to come. And it's very interesting to hear the product expansion plans for Zoom as well. We certainly look forward to seeing that developing and learning more about that in the future.
Yeah, so I think the way Eric Yuan, CEO of Zoom, is thinking is also the way I'm also thinking, because I'm always with Zoom. So whatever direction of Zoom is moving, I'm sure that they are not just seeing for tomorrow, but they're seeing like in 2 years' time or 3 years' time ahead. So what's going to happen? So yeah, we are very lucky today that we have partnered with Zoom. It also changed our business completely from only voice OIP, like telephony, to conferencing. So and yeah, we had a lot of customers, and now not just providing Zoom solution. Now we are providing a lot of solution to our enterprise, like conferencing service, meeting room, all that additional solution that we're providing to our existing customer. So that's become also another important part of our revenue now.
Okay.
In giving solution.
That sounds good. We did mention we'll have to, I thought it best to do the call, our first meeting on Zoom, given your company, but we'll have to meet in person very soon. Vasavas is, of course, a new AustCham member, so we'd like to get you more involved in the community and meeting our other members as well.
Yeah, sure. So I would like to see you in person too, definitely.
Great. Well, Vasavas, thank you so much for joining us, and looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Yep, sure. So anytime, please feel free to call me whenever you want.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vasavas Nonsopa, CEO and founder at One2All, official partner for Zoom here in Thailand. Coming up next, Connections. Stay with us.
We've got a lot more people traction. We're starting to build more events, starting to get a lot more team building, and that, with the people philosophy, is starting to turn the business around. So that's the way we've dealt with it at Crown. It's very much a people focus.
I think it's better. After 2 years, we have difficult because the foreigners stopped coming to Thailand, and now is, I think, when the country open, so a lot of foreigners come, and then I think we can get more business here.
It's a great question. After reopening the country, we have a lot of foreign patients come in, and also we are so ready to take care of any one of you who is seeking for the medical treatment with the expert and also the medical staff.
COVID-19 is starting to recover, or business is starting to recover from COVID-19. It is still slow, but it is improving as people are starting to, come to events and starting to look at getting business going again.
I think our business was one of those unique ones whereby we didn't really suffer as much as everyone else because frozen products, which is what we produce, are more of a comfort food. So many people bought our products, stuck them in the freezer through COVID, so our business actually grew. So we were one of the strange ones that was not that affected. Phuket's opened up in a big way. It's so much busier now. I think the high season is definitely coming, and I'm looking forward to it, I can assure you.
We are noticing now that Thailand is opening up, and we are getting many new expat students, which is wonderful. I'm excited to see that expats are coming back to Bangkok.
COVID-19 play as an accelerator to our business, and majority of our client business need a transformation, and they need to adapt to the new pandemic. We can step in to help them transform to a more sustainable way.
Recently, we've been getting good bookings, and we've been pretty busy the last couple of months with a lot of events and functions. A lot of events are. It's good to see events are coming back to Phuket, be it international events, sporting events. So that's been a good benchmark to start out with. Hopefully, with more international tourists coming into Boat Lagoon Resort and Phuket as well.
So look, we're really positive now that the tourists are coming back to Thailand. It's going to grow our volume, and that's really encouraging for me.
Yeah,
I'm excited about it.
That's great to hear, John. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Great to talk to you.
And welcome back. In our connection section today, we welcome my favourite Thai teacher who might be able to help me out with a little pronunciation problem I'm having. Kun Jentana Ngamkhiaw. Kun Jentana, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
You can say the Sawatdee, that sounds better coming from a Thai
Sawadee. Sawadee ka. Sawadee ka.
Excellent. So Kun Jentana is the owner of Jentana Thai Language School and a teacher as well, right?
Yes, I'm teaching as well.
Excellent. So I know you very well. I know a lot of our members, of course, know Kun Jentana, but for those who don't, can you tell us a bit about both your Thai language school and yourself?
Yes, everyone know me as a Jentana, not Ngamkhiaw. The surname is quite difficult for foreigners. So I'm a Thai teacher, and also I'm the owner of Jentana and Associates Thai Language School. So we teach Thai for foreigners, and we teach speaking, reading, and writing, and for anyone who wants to learn Thai. And also right now we do Thai culture courses to foreigners.
Great.
Make sure that they're happy here. Right? Sometimes you come to Thailand, you have to know about culture.
Equally as important, I think, right?
Very important.
Understanding the culture as well as the language.
Yes, because Thai language is one of the culture.
Right.
And also, if someone want to do like a permanent residency and citizen, we offer that one as well.
Excellent.
Yes.
Also a very good service.
Everything about Thai.
So if you want to come and live in Thailand long term, learn the language, learn the culture, become a resident, Jentana Associates is a good place to start.
Yes.
Excellent. How long have you had the business? When did you set up?
Since I graduated from Chiang Mai University, would be 1986.
Right.
So I came to Bangkok, like normal country girl. And then I do teachings at the school for some years and then teach by myself as freelance and set up and train the teachers. I start Jentana Associates about year 2000 until now.
22 years.
Yes.
That's
I think 13 years plus 22 years.
Right.
More than 30 years.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay.
That's good. Still enjoyed it.
And everyone struggled during COVID. I don't think we need to go into details of that, but were you able to keep your classes going online during that period?
The first 3 or 4 months, we have difficulty because old generation, we just don't know about online teachings. But after that, it's just good. The student keep study with us. And we do online now. Right now we do online, we do face-to-face at school, everywhere.
Excellent. And do you find more students are coming back? I know a lot of I know a lot of Australians had to go home during the COVID period. Do you find more students are coming back to your classes?
Right now, yes. I think I can feel that last month we have a lot of students coming back, the new students, because our student is still our students and come back. And also, you know, it helping from the AustCham as well.
Good.
Because I went Sundowners and I'm lucky to have a good friends like you, AustCham, and a lot of support to introduce me to new foreigners to come to Thailand.
Excellent, excellent. And so Sundowners is one channel to finding new customers, new students.
Yes.
What are other ways that you're able to find new students?
I do a TikTok.
I know.
I do a YouTube teaching Thai. TikTok is different client. You know, normally I have expat who come here to work.
Right.
But TikTok is a young kids.
So
it's just good.
So our digital communications officer, Kun Prim, who's sitting in the studio, when I mentioned you were the guest today, she said, wow, did you know Kun Jentana is a famous TikToker?
That's good.
So you've made a good
I've
impression
just tried
there.
it. I'm trying. You know, it's just very hard for the first start, but I'm happy now.
You're doing well. I've seen your videos as well. You're doing very well with it.
Thank you.
And there's a lot of good tips in there for people who want to learn Thai, especially at the beginning. I see you're doing numbers, days of the week, taxi directions, lots of useful things for starting. So.
If someone wants me to do something or, you know, some subject that you want me to do, just give me a call.
Excellent.
Or contact me.
Well, we're just putting Jentana Associates website up on the screen now. So you can go through the website, or as always, if you'd like to connect with Kun Jentana, you could always contact me or the office directly to make that connection. I have a request.
Yes.
And maybe you could do it on a TikTok, but I'd like you to do it here first, live on AustCham TV. I have a real problem, and you probably noticed it when I said your last name, with the NG sound. I've 22 years myself in Thailand. I've always had a problem with it. Can you help me with that?
That is common mistake for foreigners. A lot of foreigners complain that, oh, Thai language is difficult, you know, difficult because of tones.
Yes.
They will complain about tones. But I always...
Yes. And I said it also in pronunciation, obviously.
But I always said to them, you know, tone is not the big problems.
Right.
If you forget, like I speak English, if I concerned about tenses, you say go when gone, drink, drink, drunk, you know, it's so difficult. So if you think too much about that, you cannot speak English.
Right.
So the same, if you think too much about tones, so you just feel too difficult. But
upset your fluency.
Yes, confidence, you know, upset your confidence. But some word that you cannot say, like NG.
Yes.
NG is a lot of foreigners cannot say NG because they say no. You know, I just said, okay, when you say no, for example, this is your mouth, this is your tongue, this is your top.
Now.
When you see NG, say no first. When you say N, you say no, right?
No.
Your tongue will touch the top.
No, it does.
No.
Correct.
No.
Correct.
But when you say NG, the tongue try to touch the top but doesn't.
Don't let it touch the top.
No, let's say
okay. I'm about to go to war with my tongue.
Okay. Can you say it, please? You say no first.
No. It's touching.
Yeah.
No.
And then when you not try control your tongue. But the difficult is a lot of words NG at the end of M or N.
Right.
Like Ngam, that's my surname. NG, AAM. So you start Ngam. Right?
Ngamkhiaw.
Okay. Khiao, that is.
I got that wrong too.
Yes. Ngam. Good.
No.
Not no. You see, you still say no. So we say That's almost. So your homework, you
That's
go
my homework.
home and then stand in front of the mirror and then try to practice that.
And next time I interview you on AustCham TV, I'll be able to pronounce your last name correctly.
Yes, Ngam and Khiaw.
Excellent.
Yes.
As you can see, learning Thai with Kun Jentana is a fun experience as well, and she could help you with all aspects of your Thai language. So contact Kun Jentana if you'd like to improve your Thai. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you.
ค่ะ
Coming up next, community. Stay with us. And welcome back. In our community section today, we are very honoured to have a recent recipient of the Order of Australia Medal at the Queen's Birthday Awards. I'd like to welcome former AustCham President, Philip Forrest AM. Philip, how are you?
Thank you very much, Brendan. I'm fine. It's a glorious day here in Singapore.
Very nice. Philip, I have to start the interview with congratulations on receiving the AM, the Order of Australia Award. How does it feel?
Thank you. No, well, it feels fabulous. Well, mostly fabulous. Part of me says, you know, the imposter syndrome kicks in and you say, there are so many other people out there who deserve it more. But hey, I can get over that in time, I think. So I'm enjoying it.
Excellent. And quite amazingly for AustCham Thailand, you are one of 3 former AustCham Thailand presidents that have now received this award.
That's absolutely correct. Of course, the first one was John Hancock, who I knew very well or continue to stay in close touch with, but knew very well in the time that I was in Bangkok. In fact, we were on the committee together back in the late 1980s and early 90s. And more recently, or in fact on the same day that I got mine, we had Brenton Morello, who I've also gotten to know very well over the last few years. And you're right, I'm not sure that there would be another chamber in Asia, or maybe even in the world, an Australian chamber, where there are 3 AMs as former presidents. Now, I should just note that my involvement with the ATCC as president was fairly brief for reasons that we might talk about later. And I don't think I got any points with the Governor General for that. But at the same time, it was that fairly brief experience of being the president of the chamber that got me enthusiastic about this whole area. And when I got to Singapore, I tried to continue the involvement. So AustCham Thailand should take a lot of credit for that.
That's good to hear. And we will go into AustCham Thailand a little bit later, but let's start. As you mentioned, most of the work that you were recognised for was done in Singapore. I introduced you as a former AustCham Thailand president. To go through all of your titles and accolades, I think we'd be here all day. But let's touch on some significant work that you did. What were the highlights for you when in Singapore, starting with your position now with AustCham Singapore and some key highlights working back?
Okay, well, going right back, when I left Bangkok, which was September 1991, so 31 years next month. So I joined AustCham the day I arrived in Singapore. Took a little while before I actually got on the board, but I did join the board a few years later and became president in 2000. and stayed as president for 4 years, and actually stayed on the board till 2018. So almost 20 years on the board.
Wow.
Probably too long, but there we are. The chamber very kindly made me an honorary life member.
Right.
And in 2011, they gave me the President's Medal, which is the top award that's given out each year in Singapore to a company or an institution like a university or a school, or to an individual in my case. So these days, I'm just an active member.
Right.
I try to go to as many events as I can. And I would welcome all of your members in Bangkok, if they're visiting Singapore, please check the website, see if there's anything on while you're here, and do come along and let's have a drink and get to know each other.
That's a great idea, Philip. And we do have a reciprocal agreement across all the AustChams in the region, where as a member of AustCham Thailand, you can attend at member rates in Singapore. The same members of AustCham Singapore welcome to come up to AustCham Thailand and enjoy that benefit as well.
And in fact, I've taken advantage of that a few times. I think I've been to probably a dozen networking or sundowners in various return trips to Bangkok. I try to make it. Is it still the first Wednesday of the month?
It certainly is.
Okay.
Etched in stone.
So I hope I'll catch up with you all pretty soon.
That would be great.
And now that we're in a post-COVID world.
Yes, a normal world again.
Yeah.
Outside of AustCham, you've sat on various other boards and activities as well. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, yes, being on boards is my life these days. I was in the banking world earlier, but so apart from AustCham, I spent 5 years on the board of AustCham ASEAN, which Brenton was president of for a couple of years. I'm on the council of James Cook University, which has quite a big campus here in Singapore, about 4,000 students. I'm also on the board of Australian Alumni Singapore, which is for the 200,000 Singaporeans who have been to university in Australia ever since the Colombo Plan, the first Colombo Plan back in the 1950s. And even now, at this very moment, I think there are about 10,000 Singaporeans in Australia, gradually drifting back now that COVID or the pandemic appears to be over. So that's another involvement. I spent 6 years on the council of the Singapore Business Federation, which is the umbrella group for all chambers in Singapore. So that was a great opportunity because I got to know a lot of the top people, the top corporate people in Singapore. I was also on the Association of Banks in Singapore for a while, but that was a professional requirement. I have to confess, I was on the board of the British Chamber of Commerce for a couple of years.
Philip, say it isn't so.
And of course, you've already mentioned the Singapore Institute of Directors. I've been on the governing council now for 8 years. I'm happy to say there's a 9-year term limit, so I'm getting close to that. But that again has been a fabulous networking opportunity and a learning opportunity for me. So everything I've mentioned so far, of course, I don't get paid for. No. But there are a few activities, a few boards that happily pay the rent. And as I said, that's my life these days.
It sounds, in terms of connections, I'm going to say in terms of my very limited experience. I thought I had some experience. After talking to you, I'm going to have to say limited experience. The connections and knowledge that come with doing roles like this, it's highly recommend to anybody interested in getting involved in AustCham Thailand for that exact reason. It's just life-changing type experiences.
Yeah, no, look, I think the most important thing that any of us can do in building a career is cultivating the best network that we can. And I think the chambers, your chamber and the Singapore chamber, contribute fantastically to that. And you know, the other organizations that I've mentioned have helped me a lot as well. Great.
So let's look at AustCham Thailand now. Now, it was a long time ago. We're going to flash back 31 years. But we had a chat about your time here, and you mentioned John Hancock already. You had a chance to meet some really good characters, some really good business people while you're here.
Well, I should mention Gary White, because I know he was president of the chamber. Was it 5 years?
It was 5 years. Yep.
Yeah. And in fact, I brought Gary to Thailand. He replaced me. I had joined Westpac, and I got moved to Singapore and had to find a replacement, and Gary was the man. And it's always given me pleasure that he took up the enthusiastically took up the involvement with AustCham and did his duty. So Gary, if you're seeing this, a big shout out to you.
I'll make sure he sees it. I'll forward it on to him.
Good, thank you. Brenton I've mentioned, John I've mentioned, Lee Scott Camus is an old friend of mine. In fact, we go back even more than 31 years. We worked together in Sydney back in the mid-1970s.
Wow.
So Lee's a good friend. And Gary Woolacott, very good friend. All of these people have been presidents.
Yes.
And Gary's a great guy who I haven't caught up with for a little while, but I'm sure now that travel is on again, I'll do that soon. But thinking back to that time, I think probably the highlight of the 9 months that I was president was we had, as I know you still do, an Anzac Day commemoration in Kanchanaburi, and Weary Dunlop came. So that was I'm pretty sure it was 1991. It could have been no, I'm certain it was 1991. And he was frail and didn't live a lot longer after that. But he made the effort. And as president, I had the fantastic responsibility of taking him around and looking after him. And what a guy, what a great Australian he was.
Absolutely.
Just fantastic. While we're talking about Kanchanaburi, something that I believe I can say we started while I was president was, as a CSR effort, was providing money for freshwater tanks for schools in the area. They just didn't have access to sufficient fresh water.
Right.
So we started that, and I know that you continue to provide support for that region,
which I think
is fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Sundowners used to be the first Wednesday of the month, so that's a tradition that's continued for a long time. We used to have Sundowners at the embassy every month. And I suppose, a bit like Singapore, that continued until 9/11,
right.
When suddenly security arrangements made it not quite so practical in the future. But we used to get, they weren't big events, we used to get about 40 people perhaps to turn up. And a big surprise at one of them, and it was a surprise, we weren't expecting it. The 21st Governor General of Australia walked in.
Wow.
Bill Hayden.
And he just walked in up to the bar.
He wasn't a former Governor General. He was the Governor General at that moment.
Oh, wow.
And he walked in and joined us for our Sundowners. So that was pretty special. I think he just had a short stopover in Bangkok.
Right.
And I suspect that the ambassador, Richard Butler at the time, ran out of things to keep him busy. So he said, go and have a drink at the AustCham Sundays. So that was memorable.
That's quite amazing. When looking back at your time here, you mentioned as president only 9 months and a couple of years on the board, but the Governor General at the time, the great Sir Weary Dunlop, one of the most amazing people you would be able to meet, and all of the highly respected former presidents you mentioned as well. It was certainly an amazing time here for you.
It was, and you know, we as a Chamber of Commerce, we seem to have fantastic access to the Thai government as well. The first Thai Prime Minister that I met was Chachai Chunawan,
right,
who is probably most famous for the fact that during his time, the GDP growth in Bangkok was 16%, by far the highest in the world. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a bubble and it collapsed not long after that. But he was quite a character, and I can't pretend that he was a friend, but I got to know him reasonably well. And then he was cooed out,
right,
and replaced by somebody who I think is still with you, and that's Anand Panurachun, is it?
Yeah, he's still quite prominent.
Who was actually Prime Minister twice, and huge respect for that man. He did a wonderful job of tidying things up. And there were ministers who seemed quite keen to associate with the chamber. So that was kind of a thrill as well.
Certainly a great experience, Philip. And based on that experience, I have one final question to ask. We looked at Thailand and Singapore. You actually arrived in Asia back in 1982.
Yeah.
How have things changed over what is now 40 years?
Yeah, good question. You know, obviously in all the cities, I mean, I lived in Manila and Jakarta before I got to Bangkok. In all those cities and all the cities that I used to visit, or still do to some extent, in Southeast Asia, the skyline has changed a lot. They've mostly got worse traffic, but they've got rail systems that didn't exist before. They've become much more sophisticated in many ways. But putting all that aside, to me, the biggest change is something different. When I arrived in 1982, as you correctly point out, this region wasn't doing terribly well.
Right.
Singapore was okay, Hong Kong was okay, but they were both relatively small. China was still a disaster. I mean, it wasn't very long after the various revolutions, the Cultural Revolution. Japan appeared to be doing well, but again, that was a bit of a bubble, and it all collapsed in 1989. And most of the Southeast Asian countries were no great shakes, and no one was suggesting that this region was going to do better than South America or Africa even, or you know, the other parts of the world. But it did start to pick up. And today, of course, this region has the fastest growing economy. If you look at East Asia,
right,
fastest growing regional economy in the world, the fastest growing middle class in the world, the fastest growing take up of internet connectivity in the world.
right.
You know, back in 1982, nobody had ever referred to the idea of the Asian century. But today, I don't think anybody questions that this is Asia's century.
Right.
And I suppose I'd just add, therefore, I would like to see our friends in Australia, the corporate sector in Australia, taking more interest in this region, because it's a huge opportunity, in my view, right on their doorstep. Of course, there are some great stories in Thailand and Singapore of Australian companies that have done very well, but I would so much like to see a lot more of them.
Right.
Because as this region gets more prosperous, and it is at an amazing rate, what do they want? They want better food. They want more meat and less rice. They want more wheat and less rice. They want good wine. They want good education for their kids. They want things like insurance and infrastructure. Now, maybe we can't give them the money for the infrastructure, but we can certainly give them the professional services, the engineering services, the project management, and so on and so forth. So huge opportunities for Australian business in Southeast Asia, and it's right on their doorstep. It's so close. And this region generally has a positive attitude towards Australia. So I guess that would be my message.
And that's a good message to finish on. We're a big mandate of AustCham all through the region, Singapore, Thailand, and all of our ASEAN friends is to promote Australian investment into Asia and bring over, as you said, our Australian corporates to seize the opportunities. So that's certainly a good message to send back to the homeland.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Philip, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Congratulations once again on the appointment. It's a really quite an achievement and honour. And as I mentioned to the audience, connect with Philip on LinkedIn and you'll be able to see the list of accolades and exactly why he did receive that honour. Finally,
thank you.
With first Wednesday of the month, whenever you could get up here, you're welcome to join Sundowners as my guest.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'll be on to that sooner than you might imagine. Thank you very much, Brendan. Thanks for those kind remarks and wonderful to be with you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Philip. Philip Forrest AM, former president of AustCham Thailand. And that's our program for today. Thanks for joining us and we'll see you next time.